A small group of American soldiers, including Wehrmacht, was attached to the 57th Infantry. The squad itself was nicknamed the Filipino Scouts, as their main mission was reconnaissance and infiltration behind enemy lines. Sent to the Philippines in 1941, it didn't take long before Wehrmacht was promoted to the rank of captain of the Filipino Scouts. As the much larger Japanese force pressed forward, Wehrmacht and his men repelled attack after attack. They were heavily outnumbered and outgunned, but with Wehrmacht's leadership they caused numerous setbacks for the Japanese army. In January of 1942, the Japanese launched an offensive against the Allied forces. It seemed that the American and Filipino soldiers would be overrun and the islands would be lost. But Wehrmacht had other plans. He grabbed his Thompson submachine gun, two .45 caliber pistols, and as many grenades as he could carry. He covered his skin in dirt and camouflaged his helmet with foliage. Wehrmacht snuck across enemy lines and hid in the dense jungle. He waited for a Japanese patrol to pass by. Eventually, a heavily armed squad crossed his path. He was so well hidden that one of these soldiers almost stepped on him. The enemy squad was heading toward the Allied lines. Wehrmacht knew that if he stayed with the squad, he would be able to surprise them from behind once they were engaged with the Allied forces. As the last Japanese soldier passed, Wehrmacht stepped to the end of the line and followed the Japanese soldiers as if he were one of their own. They proceeded miles through the dark jungle, the Japanese unaware that Wehrmacht had infiltrated their ranks. When the soldier in front of him made too much noise, Wehrmacht shushed him. The Japanese squad neared the fortified position of the Philippine scouts. Wehrmacht did not want to get caught in the crossfire from his own soldiers, so he decided it was time to get away, but not before causing a little chaos. Wehrmacht purposefully stumbled into the soldier directly in front of him. As he pretended to grab onto the man for support, he handed him a live grenade. Wehrmacht gave the enemy soldier a shove and then dove into the protection of the jungle. The Philippine scouts could hear screams from in front of him. All of a sudden, the grenade went off, taking enemy soldiers with it. More importantly, the explosion gave away the position of the Japanese squad. The Philippine scouts, with the help of Wehrmacht from behind, made quick work of the enemy troops. It was acts of courage and destruction like this that earned Wehrmacht the Japanese title the Ghost of Bataan, a name that he rightfully deserved, as each one of his adventures behind enemy lines got crazier and crazier. Although Wehrmacht was a one-man army and could cause mayhem by himself, he often worked with his close friend and brother-in-arms, Jock. Jock was a massive 6'4", 220-pound Filipino soldier. As they fought together, they quickly became friends who always had each other's backs. Wehrmacht liked working alone, but Jock was adamant he'd go with his captain as backup whenever Wehrmacht volunteered for a dangerous mission. Jock saved Wehrmacht's life on more than one occasion. The most notable time this happened was on a mission to uncover a Japanese tap into the Allied communication systems. This mission was so astounding that a portrayal of it would end up in wartime gum packages back in the United States. It had become obvious that the Japanese were able to tap into the Allied communication lines. They seemed to know too much about Allied movements and plans. The commanders asked for volunteers to scout the wires along the front lines to find and disrupt the Japanese wiretap. Wehrmacht was the first to volunteer. Jock immediately stepped forward to join his captain. They set out together to locate and dismantle the deadly problem. The two men made their way through the damp jungle. They had to dodge poisonous snakes, deadly spiders, and the watchful eyes of Japanese snipers. They searched and searched for the wiretap, but came up empty-handed. Wehrmacht and Jock started to make their way back to the Allied defensive position. On their return journey, Wehrmacht got tangled in what seemed like a vine at first. He tripped and landed in the mud. As he went to cut the vine, he noticed that it wasn't a vine at all. It was a wire. Wehrmacht and Jock followed the wire. Suddenly, Wehrmacht fell into a camouflage ditch, landing directly on top of a shocked Japanese soldier who was tapped into Allied transmissions. Wehrmacht pushed off the enemy soldier and drew his pistol like a cowboy in an old Western movie. He fired and killed the Japanese soldier who was too slow to draw. Wehrmacht slowly made his way to the recording equipment to get a better look at how the Japanese had tapped into the Allied communication system.